All right, Kenny, hang on for 1 second. We're going to get back to you in a minute. I want to go to, is that Shirtless Danny?
Yes, it is.
One? Shirtless Danny, welcome to the show.
No, I got my shirt on, guys. Come on
well,
now. It's warm here in West Palm. Sorry about the Cleveland weather, but so many things here. First of all, do you realize that Brandon Whedon is still a Brown, but everybody else is gone? The entire coaching staff.
That's a great
Whedon's
point.
still on the team.
That is a great point. I haven't thought about that yet. How about, here's another quick stat for you. Do you realize that Jimmy Haslam has had as many coaches in, 500, 400 days as the Steelers have had since '64?
Oh, that's
Think
great.
about that one.
All right, let me ask you guys this, all right? And I'm sorry that Reggie had to leave because from a player's perspective, it seems like players don't want to, because now the rumor is they have a better chance, the Browns have a better chance of signing Alex Mack. It sounds like the players just don't like Joe Banner, and that would keep potential free agents from coming here. And I'm just curious what his reputation is with the players. And I know you may not be able to comment on that. But have you ever heard any of the players talking bad about Banner?
No. I didn't sense that at all. I mean, being in the locker room with those guys, and I think what bothers them is the dysfunction and the fact that there isn't any kind of continuity or accountability above them. And that's a problem for anybody who wants to come here and play professional football. And you've got a bunch of key guys that are coming into contract years with T.J. Ward and, as you mentioned, Alex Mack. And then you look at a guy like Joe Thomas, who has said repeatedly he's never played under the same coach for more than 2 years in a row. And that starts to wear on a guy. And you already have to deal with the weather here. We already know how this franchise hasn't won a playoff game since they've been back since the 90s you have to go back to. I think that all wears on him. So to answer your question, I don't think they really have an opinion on Joe Banner, but they do have an opinion about the way things are run above them because it does all trickle down. Their direct interaction with Banner is limited. I mean, they see him in the building, and he addresses them on a need-to-know basis. But I don't think, at least my opinion, I think they're more upset with the continuity and how things have broken down above them, and that's all trickled down on top of them.
Yeah, I just think, Danny, I think that they're in a weird situation right now because I don't know that players, and if you go back to Philadelphia, I'm not sure that things were all rainbows and unicorns in Philadelphia when it came to player negotiations. And Kenny just brought this up as well, talking about the fact that Joe Banner was the father of the rookie salary cap. And I'm not sure that players appreciate that very much. I know league does. I know the owners do. And it kind of put some wild spending out there for first-year guys. But I'm not sure that goes over too well with the NFLPA, and that all goes across the board. I think the Browns are in a better position right now to sign a free agent than they were when we woke up this morning.
Now, okay, well, here's a question that befuddles me. The first thing that I thought of when I heard the news this morning is, all right, Farmer wasn't even involved in the coaching search or the coaching interviews, so how does Pettin feel about that? How does his staff feel about that? It was kind of done in the wrong order. What happened in the last 2 weeks that ticked off Haslam that made him decide to get rid of Joe Banner, the angry grandfather that smells like Vicks?
All right, Shirtless Danny, thank you from Florida. I appreciate you checking in. Look, here's what I think, and I talked to a couple of business people about this today because I was asking that same question as I tried to figure this whole thing out. And someone said to me today, look, if you need to make a hire, why wouldn't you hang on to the people that know how to go through a coaching search? Whether you like the way they do it or not, it doesn't matter if you're the owner because you're going to hire the guy you want. So if you look at this situation and you say, all right, let's take Lombardi and let's take Banner for a ride here at the end. I'm still paying them. They work for me. They know how to do this. I think once I find a coach, it might be time to let him go. And I think that's how Jimmy Haslam made that decision. Because let's face it, I mean, Haslam isn't hurting for money at this point, and he's become a billionaire for a reason, and that reason is doing business the way he's used to doing it. And over the last year, he didn't do business the way he wanted to do it. And I think that I think that he was uncomfortable. I don't think he liked today's press conference. I really don't think he liked the press conference when they fired Chud. When a billionaire sits up on a stage who has kind of proved himself in the world of business, and now he's being called one of the Three Stooges, I don't think that goes over real well. And I said it when they walked off the dais. I said, I'm sure that Jimmy Haslam probably looked at Joe Banner, or at least thought, I never want to go through that again. And today might be the bottom, and he thinks he's moving back towards the top. You with me on that?
I hope he's moving back towards the top. I just don't think that Joe Banner was ever brought in here to right the ship. If anybody thinks that Joe Banner was the guy that was going to turn around the Cleveland Browns, in Jimmy Haslam's eyes and reading between the lines and what he said to us at the press conference and what he said over the last couple of weeks, he was back. He brought Joe Banner in, whether you want to believe they were married by the NFL or that had something to do with it. The fact that he worked with Goodell on the rookie salary cap situation, this might have been a, hey, good job on this. Maybe I can get you into another direction of another job. I think this was to put the train closer to the track and get Jimmy Haslam up to speed on how to run an NFL franchise. And once that happened and once Jimmy felt comfortable, I think Jimmy was like, okay, enough of this, because I'm used to giving the orders. I'm used to having people directly report to me. And I think there were so many cooks in the kitchen that Jimmy Haslam's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm glad that you got us going in the right direction. And he even said it. He taught me and my family a lot about the National Football League and how things work. But in my opinion, Andy, I think he said, I think I got this. I think I can move forward from here, and we have to streamline it and cut down the cooks in the kitchen, get this thing going in the right direction.
All right, I want to bring in, I want to get a little more perspective. So I want to talk to Garrett Downing from Ravens.com, who's going to join us in 1 second. And Kenny, as you know, just raise your hand if you want to hop in on the conversation. I do want to come back to you in 1 second. So I've got my eye on you in preview, and I will bring it back to us here. Look, let's bring in Garrett Downing. And Garrett with Ravens.com, you know, when we talked to you when they fired Chud, there was a hush that went over the Ravens. And I think that people there were like, what's going on in Cleveland? And that hush might have turned to a laugh. Today, do you think the Browns took a step forward looking at this from a bigger perspective?
You know, I don't see how you can look at it and really have any confidence that it was a step forward, to be honest. I mean, I know that there was criticism of Banner and Lombardi from day one, so you could look at it and say, okay, well, now you removed them. But I just don't see how you can look at it from a big picture standpoint and look at it and say, man, that group really inspires confidence moving forward. Because just a couple of months ago, they stand there and it's Haslam and Banner and it's a new coach, and this is the leader of the search, and it's Banner who's the one who's heading up this coaching search that there was so much criticism of, and then that is defended. And then a couple of months later, they say, okay, you know what, we got our coach, but now we're going to get rid of the guy that hired the coach. And now there's reports, and I don't know if it's true or not, that Farmer wasn't even in the room when they were interviewing the coaches. So that speaks of problems there. So I just think when you look at it from an outside perspective, when you see that, I know when I first saw it on Twitter, my first gut reaction was just to kind of look back, a little bit of a gasp, and then a little bit of a laugh. And I know there were text messages exchanged from me and just various people. I'm not talking Ozzie and Harbaugh and those kinds of people.
Right.
Just various people around the NFL. And, you know, the immediate reaction was kind of laughter and what in the world is going on there.
Well, Garrett Downing joining us from Ravens.com, just giving us a little bit of a bigger perspective on this. It's funny, Garrett, because here in Cleveland, I think a lot of people are happy. And Jimmy Haslam laid it out today that he's streamlined things. There's one voice for football right now, and that's Ray Farmer. There's one voice for the business side of this thing, and it's Alex Shiner. So I wonder how this thing's going to play out down the road, because I take a guy like Boomer Esiason, who early on said, hey, Jimmy Haslam's a good guy. You got to trust him. This is the best thing that ever happened. Never really talked about anything else. And then by the end of the season, when they fired Chud, people were like, he was like, what are they doing there in Cleveland? I actually think this takes them back on the uptick.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at it and you say, I get the point that there's one voice now that speaks to the owner kind of from the football side of thing and the ownership side and the business side of thing. And I will say that everybody that I've talked to has said Al Shiner is a great president, and people I've heard nothing but good things about him. But when I look at it and I say, you know, what has happened that inspires confidence? You know, you hire Chazinski as their coach, that's Haslam's coach, that's Banner's coach, and he lasts, less than a year or one full year as the coach. And then you say Haslam hires Banner and Lombardi, those are his guys, you stand by him. Now they're out. So now Farmer's in. People, you know, it sounds like he's a good candidate as a general manager, but I'm not sure what you look at and you say, he's made moves that inspire confidence and make me feel like he's going to make the right decision. And so that's kind of where I think from a national perspective and outside perspective, I think that's sort of the concern about what's happening in Cleveland.
All right, hey, Garrett, we appreciate your time. We'll make sure we read you on Ravens.com. Thanks for a little perspective on that.
All right, thanks. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Garrett. All right, let's go back to Kenny Rhoda for a second. We're going to be joined by Matt Lodi in just a few moments, too, from Steelers Gab. Kenny, I don't. It's interesting to hear that perspective because I haven't heard it all day. I think there's more confidence in the Browns from a fan's point of view today than there's been since Jimmy Haslam got hired. Agree or disagree?
Yes and no. It's addition by subtraction. Getting rid of two guys I think everybody in the city of Cleveland didn't want here, and Joe Banner and especially Mike Lombardi. So addition by subtraction. But guys, I can't honestly sit here right now and tell you a year from now that Mike Pettin and Ray Farmer are still going to be the head coach and the general manager of this football team. I know Farmer got a 4-year deal, and I think Pettin's was 3 or 4 years, whatever it is. That's great, but Jimmy Haslam has a lot of money that he's just willing to throw around and willing to get rid of guys if he feels he made a mistake. So I don't have the confidence and the belief that the situation is going to be much better than it really was since Haslam took over. And going back, guys, to 1999, I looked it up. Think about this. It's been 15 years now since the Browns have been back. They've had 3 owners, 6 either CEOs or presidents, 8 general managers, 8 head coaches, and 20 starting quarterbacks for this organization. It is being considered as the LA Clippers of the NFL when the Clippers were basketball Siberia. It is a joke of a franchise throughout the NFL. And Jimmy Haslam today said, all right, you know what? I run Pilot Flying J. I'm going to run this. So he got rid of the 2 guys that were on board that he agreed to and is deciding that he's going to make all final decisions now. So if the ship goes down, the captain, that's Jimmy Haslam, he's going to be in charge and driving the ship. So I feel a little bit better, but not a lot because I don't know what Ray Farmer can really do. I don't know what Mike Pettin can really do. We're going to find out in a year, and if both are bad, they could be gone in a year's time.
Well, here's the other interesting thing, too. Who hired Ray Farmer? Who hired him? Joe Banner. He brought him in, right?
I mean, go back to what Dan Gilbert said the other day. Oh, we're in great shape. We have the talent. We have the coach. Well, wait, Chris Grant brought in the talent. Chris Grant brought in the coach, but yet you fired the general manager who gave you those guys who you said put you in good shape. You're right. Joe Banner brought in Ray Farmer, who now takes over for Mike Lombardi. And so you look at this and you scratch your head and you go, all these first-time guys trying to do something they've never done. Banner trying to be a talent evaluator when he was really a capologist. Lombardi obviously wasn't thought of in wasn't in demand throughout the NFL because working in the media. And so now Farmer gets the opportunity to be a general manager, and he's never been. Has he worked for other teams in the NFL and dealt with scouting and talent evaluation? Yes, but not as heavily at the college level as he did with the pro personnel. So, again, it's still a question mark for me.
You know, and too, Kenny, I want to go back to the points that you made about whether or not Mike Pettin or even Ray Farmer would be here in another year. And throughout, and I don't know, I'm sure you picked up on it as well, but throughout the course of the press conference today, we continually asked him about the perception of coaches that came in and interviewed under this dysfunctional system and how much of an effect the fact that people were picking up on this dysfunctional system had in their hiring the coach. And Jimmy Haslam eluded most of those questions, and he did say near the end, we hired the best coach that we could hire. And I thought that was a strange way to go out and answer a question. Maybe he didn't think about it, which made me believe that was even more the right answer, what he was thinking. But in other words, saying because of this whole dysfunctionality in this family up above, these guys that were coming in, they lost out on some really good guys. And we don't know if Mike Pettin is going to be a good coach. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But I think that had a lot to do with it. I think we saw some of that today.
I agree 100% with you, Mike, and it's one of the quotes that I highlighted and printed out and wrote down. I think it was Mary Kay who asked if there were coaching candidates that said they would consider the Browns job if Banner and Lombardi weren't part of the staff. And here's the exact quote, Mike. I think we got the best head coach we could get. I'm very excited about Coach Pettin. What he didn't say spoke louder than what he actually did say as to the way he answered or didn't answer that question. And that's something that we've been hearing for weeks now. In fact, I talked to an agent earlier this morning who told me today that there were a couple of people that actually interviewed for the job and wondered why Mike Lombardi was even in the room when they were going through the head coaching interview and everything along those lines. So, yeah, you were very perceptive on that. I think a lot of us were, and that was the final question of that press conference today. And like I said, it spoke volumes to me what he didn't say when he answered that question.
All right, Kenny, hang on a second. I want to go to Matt Lodi, who's over at the Q right now. And Matt, thank you for taking the time. You also have Steelers Gab. You give us a Steelers angle on our show throughout the year. And Matty, what do you think of the situation here in Cleveland right now?
Well, I certainly think, as Kenny pointed out, addition by subtraction. And I saw Scott Fujita about an hour ago tweet out that he thought that there were two impediments that the Browns got rid of today. I certainly think that, as it stems to see the situation from Joe Banner's point of view, from Mike Lombardi's point of view, those two guys, just the power struggle between them, between Jimmy Haslam, I think that there definitely was a struggle. And I think that, if this is Jimmy Haslam's baby to run and this is now Ray Farmer's baby to run, I think they made the right decision. Might as well get rid of the guys that were in the way. And I think that now that Jimmy Haslam has the guy that he feels is the right guy to run the show, and Ray Farmer, might as well give him the keys to the car and let him see what he can do from here.
Yeah, and I think that's what everybody's wanting to find out right now, Matt, is what Ray Farmer's going to do with the keys to the car. And he was pressed about, did he have an idea which direction they were going to go in the draft? Mary Kay posed a question about 3 quarterbacks and Johnny Manziel and Blake Bortles and Teddy Bridgewater. And then also they asked him about his, how he's going to work with Mike Pettin putting this together. And he was mentioning, well, I've got several draft boards together. He knows what guys, he has a good idea of guys that he wants. And I was trying to read between the lines, like, how cohesive are these guys? And I know it's all new still, but they've been around enough to know, at least in the weeks leading up to this, whether or not this thing is going to be a cohesive unit or not. So I was real interested to hear some of the answers that he had to the questions about the upcoming draft.
Yeah, and the other thing with that, too, is when you look at Ray Farmer, I mean, he was mentioned a couple days ago as saying that he sees good things on the horizon for the Browns. So you have to wonder, guys, how long this has been in the works. How long did Farmer know that it was his position? Of course, he was mentioned for the Miami job for general manager, which eventually went to the gentleman out of Tampa. So you have to wonder, at what point did Ray Farmer know he was getting this position? How long ago did Lombardi know? How long ago did Banner know? I mean, this certainly was something that's been in the works for a while. And I know that Jimmy kind of laid it out to us as the media today of the timeline of this thing. But you have to wonder, with this whole situation with trying to bring in a head coach and all the guys that said no, they didn't want to come interview for this job, did that finally, did Jimmy Haslam finally come to the assumption that they weren't going to be able to get anything done with Joe Banner and Mike Lombardi here, and they were going to have to go into another direction? And when was the decision made to bring Ray Farmer in? And how much control is he truly going to have with having to answer now to Jimmy Haslam directly?